Good afternoon and welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Night Live. You might tell that I'm back in the office. I took my painkillers just a few hours ago, so I shouldn't have any bouts of pain during the show at least. Afterwards is a whole nother story. But the recovery is going well. On Tuesday will be 6 weeks, and I've been able to stick right on track to everything I set forth I was going to do. Although I had a 1 week setback in the hospital, unbeknownst to me due to complications, I was still able to, within that 4 week span, walk without a cane. So that's very, very exciting. So it's mind over matter and a little bit of luck too. So whatever it is you set your mind to, if you map out the action steps that you need to take to get there, and you bust your butt to do it, no matter what, the chances are good you'll achieve it. So I'm extremely excited this afternoon. Actually, I'm always excited because that's just my personality. But to see, my wife says evening. It's afternoon somewhere, honey. So I'm excited this evening because I've got my buddy Joe Perez on from Fixed Ops Pros. And we've got John Larson and Stacy Giffen from We Weave Workforce. And we had an interesting announcement this week, didn't we, guys and gal?
Yeah, we did.
So what I'd like to do is, you guys know me, why don't you announce or kind of tell us a little bit about yourselves, and then we'll jump into the announcement, and then we'll get to the meat of the meeting. So welcome. Thank you very much for being on the show.
We have Stacy.
I'm going to go first.
Okay. So my name is Stacy Giffen. While my background is not in automotive, I came from staffing and technology. So all about efficiency and finding ways to utilize technology to improve efficiency in processes. Excited to be a part of Weave Workforce and partnering with Joseph and Paul.
I'll jump in next. I've always wanted to be on SNL, and I finally got my opportunity. So that's why I'm here tonight. That's the only thing. Finally living the dream. No, I have actually been in the auto industry for many years. I, worked in a lube and oil change center years ago before I went to school, and then went to work at Ford Motor Company for almost 18 years. And I was always looking out to the future, looking at the next generation of vehicles and what we're going to do. One of my babies was the aluminum F-150, so I had a lot of fun with that and some other projects I did. And then I got to a point where I realized that my focus shifted a little bit. It wasn't so much about the product anymore. It was more about the people. And when I discovered Weave Workforce, I realized that this was what I wanted to do, was really helping people and make better use of their time. So we still are able to be in the auto industry, but also really making a difference for the people here in the industry. So that's how I came to Weave Workforce.
Awesome. And Mr. Joseph Perez.
Yeah, Joseph Perez. I'm with Fixed Ops Pros. I started and founded Fixed Ops Pros in 2018. I've, like a lot of the guys in the business, I've been around it, in and out of it since I was 14. My friend's parents had a dealership, and I started there, sweeping floors, changing oil, running parts. And, by the time I was 28, I was in the sales department and eventually became the GM of that store. So just always been either in the RV or car business. And then started working with different technologies back in late 2011, just helping other businesses come into the space, from someone on the inside who knows, best how to use that technology or that product. So did that for a while, and then we just decided to start Fixed Ops Pros. So my partners and I have a collectively, between the four of us, a little bit over 144 years in the automotive space. So it's been a while, right? But really excited. Met the guys at Weave, and 2019 was just 2020 was an amazing year for a lot of different reasons, obviously. But for us, it was, Paul, I know you hate this word, but we really did pivot, and we got an opportunity to kind of step back. And, we were like a lot of companies, we were going to market at NADA, and then the pandemic hit. And, while everybody's trying to figure out their PPP loans and all PPE and all the other stuff that you've been dealing with, we just sort of took a step back and started looking at everyone that we could partner with, and what products and services really made sense that we could impact the dealership. So we try to focus around transparency, efficiencies, and things of those natures. And when we met, well, actually, when Stacy and I connected, right away, just talking to her and the product, and then getting to meet John, it's a no-brainer. This is something that is going to change how we do business in the car space and really impact the bottom line. So we're at Fixed Ops Pros. We're excited. We're on a massive growth right now. We're sort of like a land grab. We are reaching out and acquiring as much technology in the space as possible. So it's really exciting right now, and we can't wait to get out there and start pushing this to the dealers. We've had great feedback too so far, but I'll let John go into what we've done.
Yeah.
We're building a monster machine right now. So stay tuned. These are the companies to watch. Before we get too much further, let me just jump into some of the comments. We have our good friend Tully Williams says hello all, and Micah Larkin from West Hartford. Roger Conant, Houston Roger here. No problem, more Houston/Dallas battles tonight. And Mike Vogel says, welcome everyone, looking forward to the show. Mark Williamson, hello everyone. And Terry Turline, what a great looking group. Looking forward to some knowledge. Thank you, Terry. There's going to be some cool stuff here tonight. It's stuff that people don't talk about, but yet it affects everybody. That's the really cool thing about technology. I've always been a firm believer in leveraging technology to improve efficiency and increase profitability. And you could spend your day spinning your wheels, doing all the things you think are productive, but at the same time lose sight of the things that you need to do and not leverage the tools that you have at your disposal to just achieve some phenomenal things. I mean, when you look at what dealerships spend, not just dealerships, but repair shops in general, overhead, right? Inventory, human capital, what do you spend on payroll? It's stupid money. And we'll get into some of the details in just a moment here. Mike Vogel says, once Paul is 100%, he's going to a plant-based diet, right? Me? I like plants, but on my burger. Max Del Vento says, hello. Mike Vogel says, welcome everyone. Oh, I read that one already. What happened here? Wow, the thing just jumped back from where it was. Mike Larkin says, I'm a big fan of SNL. Thrilled to be part of the audience every week. Thank you. And David Foy says, hey, bunch.
Hey, Foy.
All right, so I'm going to throw out a scenario for you. And this happens at most every store because I've seen it and you guys have seen it. And the dealership may be located in a different town, in a different city, in a different state somewhere. And other than the clothing and how they speak, there's really not a lot of big differences between them. All right. So a lot of times what happens is, and you'll concur, you walk through the service department, there's a customer standing there that's not being tended to. The dealer principal might walk by, see that's the scenario, and said, oh my God, I don't have enough people covering my service department. The next thing you know, there's 2 new employees working in the service department. Why? So that particular scenario doesn't happen. But then the flip side is, how many times you walk through the store during the course of a day and you've got 5 people working there when really you need 2 or 3 at that particular time or for that particular part of the week or part of the day. But you have no way of knowing who you need when you need. So in the meantime, the payroll just keeps going up. The benefits, God forbid the person slips and falls. I mean, there's so many costs associated with running your business that, lean and mean seems to be the new buzz, right? Everybody's, we're doing more with less. Well, that may be true in a lot of areas, but there are other areas where we're shooting ourselves in the foot. We're not doing more with less. As a matter of fact, we're doing less because we don't have enough. And we don't know what, there's an old saying, you don't know what you don't know. Well, when I learned about this technology, I'm like, wow, that couldn't be any more true than right now. Because if you have no idea what the numbers are, you have no idea of knowing how you can adjust those numbers or affect or impact those numbers, which tie directly into your bottom line. So, John, I want you to jump right in. Imagine we're at the Olympic pool. The diving board is waiting for you. I want you to run, and I want you to dive right in and kind of talk to us about how this works.
All right, thanks, Paul. I'll try and avoid the belly flop. I'll try and get a straight down dive. No, I love the way you described it, Paul, because it's the reality. And sometimes it's not from one day to the next. It's actually from 1 hour to the next. You might be super busy, and then the next hour you're not, and people are standing around looking at their phones. So it's a real problem, and it's not because of bad management. It's not because managers don't know what they're doing. It's the nature of the business is inherently fluctuating. It goes up and down. Like, you don't know when customers are going to come in the door. And I think the good managers do have some sense of it, right? They're like, oh yeah, these days are busier and first thing in the morning. And they have a sense of some of those things, but they don't have all day to sit and study this stuff and figure it all out. So that's where our tool comes in. Our tool says, you know what? We have so much data on what happens in our business. Let's use that data to anticipate it. And if we could use that data and feed it all into this artificial intelligence model, and it could tell us when we're going to be busy and when we're not going to be busy, then we can schedule our people to match that. So then you have your customers that are getting served right, you have your employees that have work to do and they're happy, and your business is more productive, more profitable. So that's really what we're trying to do, just anticipate what's coming using the data and then schedule it to match.
Now, if I can, for those that are not 100% familiar with this, let me put this into perspective for you, okay? Think centralized operator, right? You've got a dealer group, and they found that, let's say you had 5 stores, found that you don't need 5 people answering the phone. You need 1 or 2 people that can answer the phone for all 5 locations effectively, because you know based on data when most of the calls come in. Okay, so if you know historically the calls come in between 7:30 in the morning and 11 in the morning, Monday through Friday, and then from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 5:30 during the week, if you know that's historically when most of your calls are, you want to make sure you've got coverage at that time. On the other hand, if from 11 to 3 is dead, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, and the data will tell you this, it's a great thing about data because it's all plotted out, then you know you don't need 2 people at that time. Now this does 2 things. One, people love time off, right? Not everybody works just for money. People enjoy time off. And the car business historically is a bell-to-bell slave driver type business where people just work half their life. So how cool is it if they didn't have to work as many hours as they were forced to work before? And at the same token, how cool is it that you don't need to have people sitting around doing nothing, and you can have everybody be more efficient to do more with less? So that's kind of a simplified explanation of how this works. Now, you've rolled this out in a tire chain.
Yes.
Right. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was actually our first customer that we started with, was this tire chain. They have 120 different locations, and they're a little bit unique in that most dealerships, maybe 80% pre-scheduled and 20% walk-in, or, not exactly, but they have a high level of pre-scheduled. Well, for these tire shops, they're like 80% walk-in, like very few people schedule. So for them, their fluctuations were all over the place. Well, we got their data together, and one of the unique things about what we do with the data is we look at the operations and what's happening. So we don't just look at a sales trend, but we actually look at how busy the employees were, and we bring in outside data like weather. I'm sure dealerships are the same as a tire shop, where the weather can have a huge impact on the flow that you're going to have. Getting all of that data for them, we actually used 191 different data signals to feed into the AI, and we could get 90% accuracy down to 30 minutes to tell them exactly how much traffic they would have. So by knowing at that level of accuracy what their traffic flow was going to be for the next couple of weeks, we were able to save them 14% on their labor costs and improve their same-store profitability by 8.4%. So it had a huge impact on their profitability, and they could actually take some of those savings and feed those through to the employees as well. The employees are happier. I liked it earlier this week. Somebody said to me, "Are your employees feeling useless, used, or useful?" And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to make your employees feel useful.
Now think about that. That's 120 locations. So the type of savings and the type of increased productivity, I mean, that's huge. Let me jump to a couple of comments here because I hate to fall behind.
Can I say something, Paul?
No.
I also, like with the tire shop, something that is a little bit different is that those are hourly technicians. But with flat rate, not only are your employees going to be making more money, but so is the dealership. Like your revenue is going up, their time is more valuable, and they are bringing home a bigger paycheck at the end of every pay period. So I think that its application is much more widespread than just confined to aftermarket.
And it's so much more than just the hours, which we'll get into in a second. Let me jump in here. Let's see. David Foy says, "Hey, bunch." Mike Vogel says, "Heard good things about your company, Joseph Perez," from Daniel Drews. Do we know Dan Drews, Joe?
Never heard of him.
Love Dan Drews, man. They just adopted a very cute little puppy. Was showing me some video of earlier today. Nathan Williams, good to see you back at your virtual studio. Thanks, Nate. Sorry I missed your show the other day. I literally was in bed at 8 o'clock. I'm at the point of the recovery where everything's gone on target, but now the sleep thing kicks in. Every half hour I'm waking up, so I'm getting a lot more tired. And for like the last 3 nights in a row, by 8 o'clock, I've been in bed. So I've missed a few nighttime events. So I apologize to those whose events I've missed. Literally in bed at 8 o'clock with ice on my knees. So not good, but thank you for welcoming me back. Mike Vogel, lack of leadership is one of the main reasons for overstaffing. Lack of leadership, yes, but also, I mean, when you think about how many things that you're responsible for at a dealership throughout the course of a day, it's a lot, right? You end up being more of a firefighter, running from one fire to the next, putting them out just to stay on top of things, than you are, let's say, somebody that's managing the process and implementing a good fire prevention strategy. The two are quite different, but sometimes you're pushed into that position by virtue of just not having enough people to do all the things you need to do. It's like, plugging the dike, right? So you don't get flooded out. So yes, leadership has a lot to do with it, but there are other circumstances beyond one's control. Michael Landis, hi everyone. Paul, you look great. Thanks, Mike. And Allison, we love her videos. Keep bringing them. Awesome stuff. I had no idea you guys did half the things you did until I saw Allison's videos the other day showing a lot of the things that you create. And our friend Ron Overs from Fixed Ops Magazine. Good evening, Paul. John et al. Weave is awesome. Check out their article in the December issue of Fixed Ops Magazine. Fixed Ops Magazine is a free magazine that you can sign up for. So if you're not already signed up, definitely Fixed Ops Mag, or actually, Ron put a link to the article in here, so make sure you sign up for that. Nathan said, just like the auto industry itself. Dave Foy, wow. Sometimes you click on the comments and then they go too fast. So Dave Foy says, time off. Explain this to me. Sounds interesting. My point exactly. Everybody's used to working 100 hours, but if you can have them not work 100 hours, everybody's happier. Tully Williams, it starts with tech capacity. Now, here's the beauty of it. So not only do we know when we need employees, but you dig a little deeper in that, don't you? We know what type of employees you need based on productivity. And talk to us a little bit about some of those metrics.
Yeah, sure. I think the great thing here, and somebody said it in their comment too, is that there's so much data that most dealers just haven't had the access to it. And getting the data, you can then learn a lot more. So obviously, we talked a lot about scheduling the employees better, and that's a huge part of what our product does. But we can also bring to light what's really happening with your employees. If you think about it, we can take the technicians and we can say, well, look at all these different types of ROs for these different labor or these operations that you do. These are the ones that you're the most effective at. And you can dig down to technician level detail and give them feedback on how effective they are at generating, hours out of their jobs. And so looking across all of those, then you know how to help the employees and say, you know what, why don't you actually pair up with this guy, because he really knows how to do this, and help train them as well. So I think just tapping into the power of what's there and using it to improve your people and make their lives better, give them productive work to do, help them learn how to do their jobs better. They'll love you as an employer if you're able to do that for them.
So by codes, you know who's good at what. So you have as a manager now, I have a better idea of, okay, what two people would I want to pair together to maximize the efficiency in my shop? And right down to things like comebacks too, I think, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And look at the split between warranty versus customer pay. And, I've heard sometimes technicians are like, oh, well, that's because you give me all the bad jobs. Well, now you'll have data to show who's doing what makes the jobs, and you can confirm or deny.
So he has proof you're really giving him the bad jobs?
Yeah.
It might be. You might be.
I think I might have cut you off, Stacy, when I offered my last comment. So apologize for that. Go ahead.
I was also going to say that just beyond just even accessing the data, being able to visualize it in a way that's understandable and clearly communicated, I think is very important, because how many data points are out there that like some graphs I look at and John will understand them, but I'm like, oh, okay, I have no idea what that's saying or how that's going to communicate what we need to know. But it is able to be communicated in a simplified way. And I think that the dashboard and being able to really visualize that in a way that is understandable to everybody, I think is also extremely important and valuable.
Well, that's key, because we do understand things differently when we look at data, right? Some people like to look at raw numbers, but when you're looking at the dashboard and you see specific areas or you see specific growth charts, that kind of brings home the point of what the data really means to you. Mm-hmm. So I see here, so Ron put in a link to the article. So thank you, Ron, for doing that. Ron says AI forecasts the future. And the beauty of the future is that it's here today. So today we can harness its power to make decisions, not only for today, but decisions that affect us going forward. I just updated my list of dealerships that have changed hands, we'll say, and I can't say that it was all that particular dealer's choice. But right now in New England, that number stands at 49. That's 49 dealerships that were somebody else's dealership not that long ago. So unless we work smart and we start looking at the data and making data-driven decisions, there are more stores that are going to go out of business. That's just a cold, hard fact. Lou Ramirez, our coffee guy podcast brother. Thank you, Lou. Lou and Fred sent me a care package the other day. They sent me some Car Guy coffee and a Car Guy coffee mug and some other swag. I love it. I very much appreciate it. So thank you. Lou says, yes, Paul, giving guys and gals their time back will give the better quality of life. There is nothing better than quality of life. Better QOA usually translates into higher quality of work. Absolutely. If you don't feel like a slave and you're there just because you have to be, you're going to do better work. And Roger Conant says, because of COVID, smart dealer groups have traded a permanent reduction in staff for a 20% increase in efficiency. You can increase revenue two ways: selling it or saving it. And Dave Foy says it's time for the automotive industry to accept change. Hey, I heard that a few years back. It's time for change. Different guy. Sorry.
One of the few.
Wow, this thing keeps jumping back and forth here. Okay, so Nathan Williams says, no worries, there's one in April. I think I signed up for that one. And I'm starting speed networking on March 15th, and the speed networking starts at 6 p.m. So if you're not connected with Nathan Williams on LinkedIn, please do connect with him. He puts together some pretty interesting networking groups. He says it's all on Blitzer. I don't know Blitzer. Mike Vogel, Dave Foy, I'm still skeptical if the majority of dealers are ready for change, but always hopeful that more will adapt. Yeah, change isn't something that we take easily in our business. You know, I've often said that making things happen at a dealership sometimes is likened to turning a tanker in port. It doesn't happen quickly and it doesn't happen smoothly. It does ultimately happen, but not as fast as we'd like it to. Mark Grodeke. Hi, Paul. Mark G checking in from Cincinnati, Ohio. Met Mark on Auto Transport Intel on YouTube. Great guy. Superflow Systems, I think, is your company, right? Dave Foy says, Mike Vogel, the opportunities are there. We just need to have them put their egos away. You know, it's funny. Ego in the car business. Who would have thought of such a thing?
Ego's not your amigo, my friend.
Who would have thought of such a thing? Nathan says, it all goes back to getting to know your workers better. Absolutely. If you walk into Bozard Ford, that guy knows all of his people really, really well because he takes the time to get to know them. Ed Roberts has pioneered that. Dave Foy said, Nathan Williams, too many managers and not enough leaders. Leaders know their teams, what drives them, and what's important to them. Absolutely. Dave was on the show recently, and he said the first 2 weeks of going into a place, he doesn't try to change anything. Just goes in to learn, observe, and get the lay of the land to see what he's working with. Take inventory. Michael Larkin says, I run into this every day. We have their data. Meanwhile, they don't know what they don't know. Many have the attitude that they don't want or need to know what they don't know. You know, it's shame for some. Absolutely. Abel Aguirre, great show, Paul. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ron Usher, my favorite retired master tech. Make a lean, mean, happy machine. And David Foy says, exactly, Michael Larkin, they don't know what they don't know. Nate Williams,
This is a talkative group tonight.
What's that?
This is a talkative group tonight.
Very, very talkative. And if I get too far behind my wife's show, sometimes if I get too far behind, I'm like, oh, I love that shawl. That was like 4 shawls ago. I'm like, oh, was it the purple one, the green one, or the blue one? I'm not sure. So I try to stay on top of it. Nate says, I lived in Windsor for 12 years and a half. And I know how volatile yet sometimes unyielding the auto industry is. No way. Roger Conant, willingness comes from change. Find the ones willing. You know, there are plenty willing, but you're right. You do have to find them. And they put a link in for the speed networking event. So make sure you guys copy and click on that to sign up. And Mark says, yes, Superflow Systems and Pro ABD and DispatchCenter.com. I've learned so much from the Auto Transport Intel show. It's not even funny. So get connected with Mark and some of the other guys on there and subscribe to their channel on YouTube. All right, so I'm caught up on the comments. So we talked about knowing who does what well, comebacks, and how to pair people together to put better teams together.
You know, one of the things Tully Williams was, I'm remembering now that Tully Williams was saying is, you know, it's not just having the information, right? It's then taking the action on it. So, you know, information's power, but not until you apply it. And Tully's like one of the masters at taking and really digging down into the data. And I think that's one of the advantages we give to everybody that we're going to come in contact with, is that we are digging way deep into that, micro data and providing you with the solution to go and then it's actually automated. So we're actually doing it all for them.
If I can jump in, Paul, I also think that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this partnership with Fixed Ops Pros, because I've been in the industry long enough to know some of this, but I don't know it like you guys know it. And even these people that are on the show right now, there's so much expertise here. And the fundamental principles of what we're trying to do apply universally, but to take it and make it really fit for you in your situation so that it's obvious what to do and it's easy to do it can make a huge difference, right? You could take all this data and give it to someone, like Stacy was saying, and they might not necessarily know what to do with it. But working with a team like this, then we can make it so that a dealership can pick this up and say, yes, that's what I need to do, and follow it and really make a difference. And that's why we're in this right now.
And what's key about this is, like when I laid out kind of my opening example, right? In the morning, the dealer principal walks in, there's a customer unattended. Next thing you know, there's two more people there. These are things we know from being in the business, right? I've been in the auto business for over 41 years. So I haven't been in a ton of places, but of the places that I've been, a lot of the same things come to play, right? It's the same culture, it's the same scenarios that play themselves out over and over again. So unless you're in it, it's hard to imagine how you're going to impact a particular industry. You know your piece of it, but by partnering with Fixed Ops Pros, now you're taking an expert in one area and an expert in another area, and you're combining those two. It's almost like what we're doing with your software with combining the techs to get improved productivity, right? It's the same thing. You know your business inside out, sideways, and backwards. You know what you can do. You partner with Fixed Ops Pros, who knows the car piece of it. And now we talk about specific scenarios. We talk about specific data points so that we can more accurately target those areas that are going to better impact those stores. And from there, it just becomes a monster. I mean, there's really no stopping it when you think about it.
And like, what impact does that have on the customer experience? You know what I mean? How often do people not go to the dealership for things like oil changes or simple things because they don't have availability day of, or if they need a part and it's 2 weeks out, they're losing sales and they're losing money. And then the customer has that in their brain that, oh, this isn't a dealership that can get me in today. So I'm not going to even ask to go there next time, even if it's the convenient location or where I bought my car.
That is so true. And that reminds me, this week I had a scenario where our Outback lease just ended. We loved the car. So we bought out the lease, registered the car, and I just bought new tires for it. And Costco, unbelievable deal. Unbelievable. I get top of the line tires for a great deal, and they've got this warranty where for the 55,000 miles that the road hazard warranty is, they will balance and rotate my tires for that entire time of 55,000 miles. So if you do the math, that's about a $500 value over the 55,000 miles that I got from buying those tires. So not only did I buy the tires at a great deal, but I've got future savings. So now when I go in for my every 6,000 miles for a mechanical maintenance service, I only need to go in for the oil change itself, not the oil change and the tire rotation and balance, because it's $55 per time to balance and rotate tires. So they don't do alignments there. So I've got to now get my car aligned. Unfortunately, my local place, their alignment machine broke, so I can't take it to them. One dealer I had a bad experience with, I'll never go to them because they screwed me on my Crossfire. So that's not going to happen. So there are two other dealers, actually three. I don't want to drive the hour one way to my dealer where I bought my cars from for just an alignment. that's going to be 2.5 hours and then waiting there for the alignment. I don't really want to do that. So that leaves 2 other dealers in the area. One of them I called, the phone just rang and rang and rang and rang. Clearly not the right staffing levels on their phone because I couldn't get through to them. The other one I called, the person's off that I dealt with last time, the phone bounced back and I just kind of was on hold for a while. I hung up the phone. I ended up calling back the next day and I'm going in next Friday to get it done. But to your point exactly, for the customer experience, okay, I know I have to have the alignment done. That's just the way it is. Because I know in 42,000 miles of driving this car, I probably hit 1 or 2 potholes. And I'm sure my wife probably hit 1 or 2. So it's not going to hurt us to have the alignment done. But customer satisfaction wise, my expectations are not that high at the local dealership level. So therefore, I understand it. But somebody else who's only thinking about the Amazon experience, they're going to have a tougher time with the scenario I just painted out, not being able to get a hold of somebody. So yeah, so it saves you money in so many different ways because a customer that's pissed off is not coming back, and that costs you a lot of money down the road. So Roger Conant says, who is your competition? I'd like to answer that one myself. You know who your competition is? You. You're the competition because nobody's going to do what you do the way you do it. Nobody. So there's always going to be competition. I never worry about competition because it doesn't matter because they're not going to be as committed to do what you do. If you want to follow up on that, that's up to you. But that's my answer on the who's your competition.
Yeah, I can say in the scheduling world, it's honestly hard to compare because you can go out and if you search for employee scheduling software, you'll find 100 different ones. And all of them are about a manager going in and setting a schedule for their employees. And so it's all about the administrative workload of that manager. Can they make a schedule? And ours is not even the same thing. Ours is not just a manager. The manager doesn't even do the schedule. The AI does the schedule for the manager, and the manager then checks it and says, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, why did you do that? And you can see the demand and see why the AI scheduled it the way it does. And then the manager can override it and say, well, actually, I know something else. So the manager's in the loop, but it's the AI doing the scheduling for them. So there's a lot of different employee scheduling softwares out there, but I haven't seen others that really use AI this way. The only places I've seen it are actually we had some discussions with McDonald's and Wendy's, and they have this type of software because you think about the operations that they run and how lean they have to be. They forecast demand and they schedule their employees to match that demand forecast. So we also found like a major hospital call center that does the same thing. So I know that it works and we know what difference it can make, but most of the scheduling software out there is just not even trying to do the same thing.
What's great about it, it's like on steroids, right? It's scheduling on steroids.
Yeah. And I would like more competition so that way we can just prove how much better our model is than the others.
And the great thing about the AI is that it's like playing chess with a computer. You're never going to win, never, because unlike people that don't know what they don't know, a computer knows what it doesn't know.
Yeah, we're looking so far back into the systems and then projecting it out forward. I mean, how are you going to remember exactly what you did, the second week of December, last year and the year before? How are you going to remember which employee is outperforming the other employee as far as productivity and efficiency and all that? It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely mind-boggling. Even the grandmaster chess player conceded to the computer, says, I'm out. I can't win. You want to talk about ego?
We actually have Bobby Fischer in our software.
Is that the Fisher factor?
Yes, that's it. Don't tell
Nate
anyone.
Williams says, info and knowledge, they are both power. Reminds me of the Schoolhouse Rock. Knowledge is power. David Foy says, applying the knowledge is where the power. Ty Thompson, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, Ty Thompson. Hi, Thompson is CEO of Cars on the Move and on the Auto Transport Intel shows. They have 4 of them on YouTube every week. Connect with him and Jay Wurzberger, and you will learn everything you want to ever learn about the automotive transport business. Because until the car gets transported, nothing happens.
I owe Ty a call, actually.
Dave Foy says, welcome, Ty. And Linda Hansen, so many dealers are booking oil changes 3 weeks out plus. Guess who's going to wait for an oil change for 3 weeks? Not this guy. I don't think so. I walked.
Isn't it interesting that we're making our customers pick up the slack for our capacity and scheduling challenges? It's like we can't get the right capacity, so you have to wait for us. And that's the recipe for losing customers right there.
Well, I walked into a dealership. It says express service on the outside. So I said, oh, I'm here. I'd like to get my car expressly serviced. Sure. What day would you like to come in? I think I'm here now. Well, we can't do it now. Well, what happened to the express part on the building? Well, we're scheduling for next week. Well, that's certainly not express. That's Supress, not express. So I left and I didn't go back.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Next time you pull in McDonald's and they say, yeah, would you like your hamburger next week or when?
Hey, I'll gladly have a hamburger today, for which I'll pay you next Tuesday. Michael Weldon from the West Coast, big time loss of business. Point on. Yeah, it's crazy. You know, it's such a fine balancing act between knowing what's coming in and the computer knows you can't fool the computer, and then working it in such a way to anticipate what you have a very good feeling on what's going to just show up and be able to balance them all at once. One of the things that I love about the aftermarket is that, you know, most of the stuff is walk-in, as you were saying earlier, right? That's just the nature of the beast. The doors open at 7:30, and by 7:45, there's a line out the door, and everybody's asking the same thing. How much longer till I'm out of here? Haven't even looked at your car yet. But they're all asking the same thing, right? You have to be able to juggle all these things and not drop any of the balls and make sure that everybody's happy. So with software like this, not just scheduling, but the whole efficiency piece of it and the predictive piece of it, now you can juggle all those balls. It's like you got 40 arms. What was that? Some mythical creature. I forget what the religion is, but there's a person that's got like 100 arms. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's Hindu, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Hindu. Krishna?
I don't know what it is, but it's got all these arms. That's like your machine right there, right? You're juggling all these things at once automatically. So less stuff is going to drop, more happy customers. Linda Hansen says scheduling is a huge issue right now, especially with service BDCs not being knowledgeable about repair times or even what an appointment actually means. I mean, that's scary, right? You spend millions of dollars on a facility to not know these pieces.
We can help.
Roger Conant, so does this product have something in common with predictive maintenance? Expand on the AI piece. Lots of hype about that these days, but what does it mean to the typical service manager?
Stacy, you want to go into that or you want me to?
You can.
Okay. So AI, there's lots of different types of AI, and don't think of this as a general AI that can do anything. It's actually a very targeted AI for a very specific purpose, and that is giving you a prediction of what the demand will be and how many employees are needed to serve that demand. So that is really the targeted AI that we're going for. You can also think about it, I mean, most of you have probably done some level of prediction in the past. Maybe you did like a regression analysis that you had 1 or 2 factors that you were taking in to do a prediction. And you can imagine this AI basically saying, okay, we're going to do a regression, but rather than 1 or 2 factors, we're going to have 200 factors. And it doesn't, and so it's taking all of these factors and exploring things and figuring out what has the most influence, and then it can spit out the answer in the end. And that's what's a little bit scary to a lot of people about the AI is it's like, well, wait a minute, how did it come up with this? And honestly, a lot of it, you can't like retrace the steps and see how it came up with it. But when we train it, you only use a portion of the data, and then you can use the other portion of your data to validate your model, so that you aren't just like exactly fitting this one set of data and it doesn't match in the future. You actually use part of the data, come in, train your model, then use the other data to come back and check it and validate that it actually works. So that's really what the AI is doing. It's taking all those factors and exploring any different possibility of how those combine together to give you the end result.
And sometimes it can be surprising too. I mean, sorry, Paul, if I interrupt. But when you do this workforce analysis and when you look at these data metrics, it rates them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down, and you can see what has the most impact, where it produces the highest wait times or things like that, where it has the highest consumer demand in comparison to where your schedule is. And so it's really interesting once you start breaking it down, and it seems intuitive when you look at it. You think, oh yeah, of course that would make longer wait times. Of course there is going to be a higher demand at this point in time, but it's not something that people typically put into practice when they are scheduling employees.
Yeah, one example of that, we are working with a hospice provider right now and working with their call center. And they've said, our demand has gone up a lot since COVID, which is sad, but true. And so we work with them, onboard their data, bring it all in, and then give them the outputs of the prediction model that says these are the factors that drive it. And the factor that was larger than any others was COVID. How many COVID cases in the state at that 3 weeks ago? And just pulling that in, we could prove that their gut instinct was right. But now we actually know how much of an impact it has, so that we can better predict what's going to happen in the future for them.
That's a great question, Roger, because people do throw the term AI around like it's the latest buzzword. And each has its specific application. We're looking at specific jobs, specific operations within a specific industry to impact specific things. And the beauty of this is that it's always getting better, because it's learning new data and it's validating that data to come up with more and more accurate predictions. Mm-hmm. So it just gets better all the time. And Ron Usher gives a thumbs up to Linda Hansen's comment. Nate Williams says, why put up a sign that says express if you're going to make people wait a week? It doesn't make any sense. And that is exactly why I don't go back to that dealership anymore. Dave Foy says Cali, K-A-L-I. Not sure what that means. But Linda Hansen says, don't even get me started on promised times. Are you insinuating that people promise you a specific time and then fall short of that promise? Or perhaps don't call you within the hour they said they would? Or don't call you at all? Is that what you're insinuating? Could be, because I've experienced that myself on many occasions. Frederick Subprime Hero Linares III says, hey guys. Nate Williams, well, there was an early 2000 movie called AI. I don't think that's the one we're talking about here, my friend. Michael Larkin, question about the system. Can the system make suggestions to employee staffing or show the data to how many staffers are needed for what positions? Does it customize the schedule pertaining to the individual store?
Yes, it does. It does both of those. So first of all, for the individual staffing, we usually think about that as a longer term forecast, and we actually use a different model for a longer term forecast. So to predict what your demand is going to be to a half an hour increment in the next 2 to 3 weeks is a different model than looking out 3, 6, 9 months and how much demand will you have there. So we use a separate model to look at the longer term staffing needs. The other point is that the schedule is customized to the individual store, and it can take into account the different skills that might be required. So it can look at, what level of technician they are, what their capabilities are, and it can schedule according to that. So because the AI is framed in a way that we can do the inputs for your store, and then it will analyze your data and do the outputs the way you want it. Then it's very customizable, despite using a consistent framework to apply it. So it's really fun.
There's also the opportunity for cross-team optimization. So if you have multiple dealerships or stores within a geographic region and you have people that need to be able to float between it, you can customize it so that way, or it's in development that there is the opportunity to have people and say, hey, we can pull this technician from this dealership and go to this dealership and truly optimize his time if said technician was open to doing that, if he lived close enough or whatnot.
I mean, that's great. I mean, talk about really optimizing your workforce. That's super. And when you think about it, to your question of does it work per individual store, look at that 120 chain tire retailer, right? There's 120 different set of personalities, different set of scenarios that it's handling the scheduling for all at the same time.
Yes, and each individual store unique. Yes.
Yeah.
We should put that link up to the calculator and to the stats. I mean, I think it was 120 stores, roughly 5 mechanics per store, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think their average is 5 or 6. They had some that were just 4, but they have some that are 12 or 15 even.
And that's a big number. I mean, we're really, $18.2 million over 3 years is nothing to sneeze at.
A lot of money.
Yeah. So we can save them that kind of money. I mean, just imagine what we do for the dealerships.
Dave says Cali is the many-armed god you referenced. That's that thing I was talking about before.
Is that the one with the elephant head?
I don't know about all that, but the arms anyway. Linda Hansen says that would never happen, Paul. Frederick Lennart says fire emojis. Roger Conant, how does a service manager currently find out what you can provide for them?
I'll message Roger right now.
Well, in the comment section, if you could put that info that way, because I'm sure there are going to be some people that have some further questions, because I don't know about you, but usually after I get off a call, I'm like, man, I forgot to ask this question, or, oh, you know what, I just thought of something. So if you put that info in the chat, so after the show's over, go into the LinkedIn broadcast, and then you can put it right in the chat there. That way everybody has access to it. Michael Larkin says, wicked system. Michael, are you from Boston? I would love to talk to you, Stacy, John, and Joseph. I'll reach out to connect via LinkedIn. Definitely connect with these guys. Ron Overs, another great show, Paul. Thanks for all you do. Thank you, Ron. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the support. You guys come out every week and support my show. I try to keep it interesting, try to bring you the stuff that other people aren't talking about, because I've never heard of anybody talking about this. And this is something that, especially now, right now, impacts everybody. I mean, staffing levels right now, I don't think they've been more critical than right now, with the pandemic, and that's crazy. But again, it's not just for car dealerships. It's really any type of business that has employees that have scheduled hours.
Yeah.
Right? It's just a question of accessing the data points within your system, your DMS or your operating system, or whatever it is that powers your particular industry. And, there are patterns that emerge in every industry. Those patterns might not be the same for every industry, but for similar businesses, there are similar patterns. And I don't know anybody that doesn't complain about spending too much money on payroll today.
Right.
I don't think there's such a thing.
Yeah.
It's especially good for the car business because, the fact that we can look all the way down, not only to the hours, the seasonal trends, the actual mechanic and their efficiencies, how they're doing those jobs, if there's comebacks, how many comebacks, and then going able to predict that forward. That's where we really have a huge impact on the car business. It's unique though.
It's so much great data that's available now. That the funny thing about technology is that sometimes after you learn about something and you start using it, then you ask yourself, well, how did I get along without this?
Yeah.
Right? Because the amount of money you just saved that one company. I mean, when you think about how many dealerships there are across the country, how many dealer groups, I mean, it's staggering amounts of money. And it's like we said, it's not just the money piece of it, it's the quality of life piece of it, right? People don't have to work bell to bell. They don't have to work 100 hours, or they don't have to feel funny when there's too many people working there. When the boss walks by, oh, I better make like I'm doing something, because otherwise I'm going to get fired. Crazy. Roger Conant says, Paul, do you have to take stairs to go to bed? Yes, I do. And my goal before leaving the rehab facility was to be able to walk up those stairs so that I could sleep in my own bed at night. And I was able to accomplish that. So now I do the stairs like a champ. I need another 10 degrees worth of flexibility in my knees in order to go down the steps as fast as I go up the steps, because you need more bend in your knees to do that. But I'm getting there. But yes, several times a day I go up and down the stairs, no problem. Lou Ramirez says, great show, Stacy, Joseph, John, and Paul. Wait to start some great conversations. Keep rising, solutionaries. Coffee cup and fire emojis. Mark Williamson, great show, guys. Very thought-provoking. You know, Mark, that's what I like to bring to the table. Thought-provoking. It's stuff that not everybody thinks about, but when you're exposed to the information, you're like, hey, you know what? I bet you my competition's not doing this, right? Dave Foy says, great call, great info, great things to come. Oh, yeah. Like I said, companies to watch right now. Just saying. Fixed Ops Pros, We Weave, DealerVendorMatch.com. Just saying.
Dave Foy, he knows. He's going.
Ron Usher, I never get comebacks anymore. Yeah, he just retired.
You wondered about that comment.
But you know something? I bet you Ron probably didn't get many comebacks either. It was probably something they declined and had to come back for to fix, because they said they were selling the car when in fact they had no intention of selling the car. Nathan Williams says, we need more of this kind of show on television. Well, the beauty of the internet today is it's today's television, and we have this show every week on Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern time.
There you go.
So thank you for tuning in. Wow. A lot of stuff we covered here tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Paul, can I just throw in, most people I've met, they're really in the business because they want to help people. Like, they want to make people's lives better. And that's what we're hoping we can do with Weave. Honestly, it's just like, this is people's time. This is the most valuable thing that people have.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we make a better use of it? Why don't we find a way to line up everybody's time so that when they come in, they get served, and the employees have something to do, and the business will be better off for it too. So I loved your title for this episode. It's about time. That's really what we're trying to do here. So really appreciate the time tonight to talk about this and explore it with your audience.
Well, thank you. You know, we've had some great meetings, and I'm excited about where we're taking all this. So I've learned a lot from you guys in the short time that we've been together talking about this. And I figured the time was right to bring it to market. And, you know, like the title, it's about time.
It is.
And you don't know what you don't know, but now you guys have a better idea.
That's
So
right.
if you guys could put the info like I said, in the thread,
Yeah.
because I'm sure there are going to be some people that have some questions. And that way they can reach out to you directly and set something up. Ty Thompson says, great show, Paul. Thank you. Thank you, Ty. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you guys tuning in every week, supporting the show, sharing it with your friends. I get people that reach out to me every week, and I ask them, I said, hey, how'd you find my profile? And have you seen my show? And a lot of them tell me my boss or my friend or my coworker or, you know, my contacts, they watch your show every week and they suggested that I contact you. So I appreciate that. So that brings us to another end of a Sunday Night Live. I want to thank my guests for being on and sharing with everybody the information that most people didn't know about. I'm sure probably 80% of the people that tuned in tonight did not know this type of stuff even existed. So for that, I am thankful that you guys came in to talk about this. And I want to wish everybody a productive and successful week coming up. Like I said, if you saw value in tonight's show, please share it on your LinkedIn. And unless there's any other questions, we're going to call it a night. And we'll see you next week on Sunday Night Live. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.